Welcome back to the Road to Life podcast with Bennett and McKay. Today we're talking about getting through hard days in a relationship.
Yeah.
From a relationship perspective.
From a relationship perspective, because as much as we wish it, every day is not sunshine and rainbows.
We also have to be careful what we wish for because those are the opportunities to grow as well and
Learn about yourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Learn about each other.
So in the moment they suck, but there's always something that can be gleaned from that situation. Some learning or
every single time. And if you can find the learning in that shitty situation, then you found the reason for it and it's not so shitty anymore.
Exactly. Not always easy to see though, especially in the moment and even after. Sometimes it's hard to extract the lesson from it. It's there.
Yeah.
You have to do some digging sometimes, but it is there.
Yeah. And so for us, I think there's a few ways that we navigate the harder days because, they come, they're inevitable. Some days are just harder than others. You get punched in the face, the universe does something and, you thought everything was full steam ahead one way and then something gets dropped in your lap and you're like, oh man.
Yeah. And in a relationship, that can happen to both partners at the same time. That can happen to one partner one day and another partner another time. And I think it's just really important to give the space for the other person to deal with it. We have to process it, right? When something bad happens, you and I, we go about things a little differently. And we're pretty similar. Like we've got a lot of similarities. We've got a lot of differences. But even with the personality styles and types that we are, we still deal with things differently.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to allow the other person that space to process and go through that situation for them. Just however they're going to do it, just give them that space and let them go through that.
Yeah. And I also think that for us, a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, we have our tough days on different days. It's not necessarily that anything catastrophic has happened. It's just...
You'll get wobbles.
You get a wobble. You feel frustrated. You feel overwhelmed maybe. Who knows why? You didn't get enough sleep. Who knows what it is? But for some reason that day, everything feels harder. And you've got more of a pessimistic outlook that day. And you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed or whatever. And I think luckily for us, those sort of random shitty days don't often happen to us on the same day, which I think is a huge benefit because then one can help pull the other one out of it. When something sort of big happens, I think that's when usually we're both feeling it at the same time. But the days where it's just sort of catches up to you sometimes for whatever reason, it's nice that it doesn't happen to us at the same time on the same day so that the other one can say, hey, wait, no, look at all the things we have to celebrate this week. Look at all the things we've accomplished. Yeah, this is hard, but we picked this hard and let's focus on all the things that we've accomplished. It doesn't diminish whatever the shitty feeling is for that day, but it helps pull the other one out when you can point out where we've got momentum and where we've been seeing benefits and positive outcomes.
Yeah, and on the days where we are both impacted, we're both having a wobble, I think it's important for both partners to give, and we've talked about it before, the benefit of the doubt. My person I'm looking at right here, they're going through something. I'm going through something. We're not having a great day. We're annoyed. We're frustrated, whatever it is. It's not directed at me. They're frustrated and annoyed and whatever is going on, this situation, but they love me. They're in it for the long haul. This isn't something that we're going to pile on and make the relationship also an issue here. You're going through something. I'm not going to take that personally and think that now we're in a battle and now we're going to compound the problem that was external to our relationship by bringing our relationship in and having that be now a problem.
Another problem to deal with. And so I'm thinking specifically about a time in the fall. We were in Rustico. And something shitty happened external to us. Something bad happened.
It's crazy. I don't even know what you're going to talk about.
And we were both really disappointed and really frustrated. Really. Like it was a real kick in the gut. And we both...
I feel like I should know what this is.
We both sort of snapped at each other about it. We were sitting side by side at the computers. And we got a little snappy with each other because we were both so frustrated and like on the same team, but dealing with it separately. And so I got up, I walked away, gave us each some space, went into the other room, took a few deep breaths, felt how shitty it felt, not trying to avoid the feeling, but feel the feeling of how frustrated I was, give myself a little bit of space to realize that he's frustrated too. We're both frustrated. He's not angry with me. I'm not angry with him. Take a few deep breaths, come back out, apologize for snapping because I did. And then he apologized for snapping because you did. And we moved on.
Hilarious.
You have no recollection.
None.
And so we were both really frustrated.
Yeah.
And because of that, our bandwidth for space and for benefit of the doubt went pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like one snap each, and then, okay,
Apologize.
walk away,
Move on.
take some deep breaths. When you remove yourself from the situation, it gave me a minute to regain my perspective.
It's funny that I actually don't have recollection of that because it's not like it's something that we do regularly. I guess I just moved on and tuned that completely out.
Yeah, well, it's not like we left it unresolved, right? I think that's another thing is when something comes up and someone says something that they wish they hadn't, or that if they were being their best self wouldn't have said. Space is good, but if you come back from that space and ignore it like it never happened and move on,
Yeah, it festers.
it festers.
Yeah.
For both,
builds
I
resentment.
think, but
And also-
especially for the person who received
And
it.
also, you mentioned because we apologized, and so when you apologize, like we've gotten good at when we go through something, we apologize. It's gone out of here. I don't have room in here, my brain, for this stuff. So once we've dealt with it and apologized, we move on.
Well, it's like, I mean, which I think is good because that's what we talked about in the apologizing episode
Yeah.
was apologize sincerely,
mean it.
mean it.
and don't bring it up again.
and then when someone
I
accepts
couldn't.
it,
I couldn't if I want to.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in an ideal world, our strategy is always to give the other one the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
Obviously.
and 90 some odd % of the time we get there.
Sure.
But
like
we're
anyone, we're
human.
human beings. And when the
Yeah.
emotions get the best of you, you're going to snap or say something you wish you hadn't. And when that happens, space to regain your perspective and realize what you can't control, realize what you can control. And what you can control is how you're reacting to this shitty situation. And maybe you reacted poorly. And if that's what you've decided, I reacted poorly in this situation, he did too. Like I could have went into the bedroom and be like, screw him. He snapped at me first, or I don't even remember who snapped first. But he didn't apologize to me. Why would I apologize to him? But it's like, my apology has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
You will apologize if you think you need to. I thought I needed to. And then when I did, you did. Because we both had something to apologize for and we both believe in the power of an apology. But your need to apologize is not diminished by someone else also having a need to apologize in your eyes because you can't control them. And so you can only control what you can control. And if you need to walk away for a second to give yourself some space to gain that perspective back, do that. Get your perspective and then come back and apologize for your part in whatever happened. And most of the time, when the other person gets your apology, they're probably going to apologize because that's the law of reciprocity in action.
Yeah.
Most people are going to do that.
Yeah.
But the apology is a critical part of that because otherwise, to your point, it festers. And then the next time the emotions get the better of you, you snap and you say something you wish you hadn't, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse because it festers and it never gets resolved.
So it's the benefit of the doubt on the front end. Before anything snapped, it's like, okay, this person's frustrated. They're dealing with something. It's nothing to do with me. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give them some space. But also the benefit of the doubt comes into play when, just to your point where you just talked about, we snapped, okay, that's not who they are. They didn't mean that. I'm going to release that. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, give myself the benefit of the doubt.
Because I didn't mean it either.
This
That's
isn't
not who
we
I
are.
am.
This is not who we are. This is not who she is. This is not who I am. This is not who we are as a couple. I'm going to let that go. And I think that's when you can do that, it gets you over those humps a little easier. I think when people dwell on things, it's because they take things personally and they attribute what that other person did or what they even did themselves as an identity. She did a bad thing. I did a bad thing. Therefore, she's a bad person and I'm a bad person. We're bad people. And you have to give the benefit of the doubt. You can be a good person and say something that wasn't right or do something that wasn't right. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. And I think that's a really important shift that dials in that ability to move past that.
And I think one other trick to helping get past it, the hard days, is to feel it. We've talked about it before probably because it's big for me. Yeah, we talked about it in the lessons we learned from Peru. My preference is to not feel the hard stuff. I don't want to feel the shitty things. But when I don't feel the shitty things, they stick around. And I can't get rid of them then. Whereas if we're having a hard day for whatever reason, like whatever the reason is that's caused the day to be shitty, what I did in that moment I was talking about in October was go into the bedroom, feel the shittiness for a minute. Not the shittiness in our relationship, but the situation that caused the rift. Go in and feel how much that sucked. And honestly, the feeling of how much it sucked passes in a minute or two. It's not like the feeling sticks around forever. You're only in it long enough for it to go through you. And so go to the bedroom, go in another room, sit there, feel how shitty it feels for a minute, maybe two. That passes. Okay. So now I'm feeling a little better because the bad feeling is gone. Then that gives me the time to be able to get a little bit of perspective and realize I wasn't my best self. I better go apologize for that. And it just makes it easier. When you can feel the feeling and then it goes, then it helps gain perspective.
And I think that becomes easier when you build the muscle of having difficult conversations, building the vulnerability. When you get your relationship to a certain place, those moments when you aren't your best self, they're easier to get through because you've built the muscle. So it's not, if you've not built that muscle, it's not always easy to get there to that point.
Yeah.
And so I think that's
It's
where
uncomfortable.
I think that's where a lot of people struggle is I'm not saying sorry. He said it first. Screw him. He can
Exactly.
apologize to me. And that's when it really starts to fester. And that's when little chinks in the armor happen in your relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
death by 1,000 cuts, right?
Totally death by 1,000 cuts. I think Layla Hormozi said this about her and Alex Hormozi's relationship. They're choosing short-term discomfort over long-term dysfunction. So when something like that happens, like we talked about, you don't address it. You take your moment away and you come back and you don't apologize. You just move on. They're trading that short-term uncomfortable conversation for much longer term dysfunction in their relationship. You have to have an uncomfortable conversation eventually. If you have the small one in the moment, you don't need to have the big one.
Yeah, you can save your relationship rather than the uncomfortable conversation of how do we split the assets, who's going to take the kids. Like
Totally.
That's going to be a way more difficult conversation to have.
Yeah. And so the short term discomfort of that uncomfortable, like, he should apologize to me, but I also have something I should apologize for. So I guess I'll start because I can only control me. It's uncomfortable to go out and have that difficult conversation and humble yourself and make the apology. But like we said, like 9 times out of 10, the law of reciprocity, you're going to get the apology back, which helps. But also it makes it a little easier the next time because you're never going to get away from having uncomfortable conversations. You're going to have them on the regular. If you're in a relationship,
it's part of the contract that you sign when you sign up for going through life with another human being. You're not always going to get along. You're going to have to communicate and have tough conversations. It's part of the process.
Yeah,
You
and
can't get around it.
You can do all the things you can control to be the best version of you.
Sure.
You can do your best to be your best self, but no one's ever going to be their best self 100% of the time.
Exactly.
So when you're not your best self and when they're not their best self, giving them grace, apologizing, and loving them enough to have an uncomfortable conversation.
That's key. That's a good point. It's actually an act of love. It's hard.
It sucks.
It sucks, but it's an act of love. Like you're doing it for their benefit, your relationship's benefit.
Yeah.
Because if you have it now, you won't have to have it later, to your point.
Exactly.
So
that's how we get through the hard days.
Getting through the tough days. So if you're having a tough day, give that some thought. An olive branch can go a long way. And in the law of reciprocity, you likely will get that olive branch extended back to you. So if you got any value, we'd appreciate you leaving a review or a comment or sharing it with someone else who you think might get value from it. And as always, if you want to continue the conversation and join a community of people that just celebrate each other and help each other going through life, then go search Traveling the Road of Life on Facebook, and we've got a group there that we'd love to wrap our arms around you. So feel free to do that. And as always, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Road of life, yes, you own it. Let every mile bring a smile.